Welcome back to the show, everyone, and today we are going to have a very honest conversation about the roof over your head. A lot of people ask me for the secret to getting rich, and when I tell them the truth, they usually do not want to hear it. The truth is that the American housing market in May of 2026 has become a tale of two different planets. On one planet, you have the asset owners who are riding a stock market high, and on the other planet, you have everyone else trying to breathe underwater. I was looking at the latest data this morning, and it is actually wild to see what is happening out there. Let us start with a number that should make your skin crawl because 1,100,000 American homes are now in negative equity. That is a massive 15% jump in a single year. If you are wondering what negative equity means, let me break it down for you in plain English. It means you owe the bank more money than the house is actually worth. Imagine buying a candy bar for $2, but then realizing nobody will give you more than $1.50 for it. Yet you still owe the shopkeeper the full $2. This was a nightmare back in 2008, and it is starting to creep back into the chat. Why is this happening now in 2026? Because the math of home ownership has been completely broken by interest rates and ego. If you bought a house in 2022 or 2023, you probably locked in a 3% interest rate. Your monthly payment felt fine and life was good. But a buyer today is looking at a 30-year fixed rate of around 6.4%. So when you go to sell your house, the new buyer says, "I cannot afford your price unless you drop it by $100,000. And just like that, your equity is wiped out by commissions and closing costs. In California, the average homeowner is sitting on $25,000 of negative equity. In Nevada, it is $16,000. And in Arizona, it is $24,000. The only place that seems to be crushing it is Wyoming, where people are sitting on $23,000 of positive equity. Shout out to Wyoming for being the only sane person in the room. This means that if you are in a position where you have to sell right now, you are basically burning your down payment just to walk away. It is no wonder that 67% of American adults say it is a bad time to buy a house. But if you look at the younger crowd ages 18 to 34, that number jumps to 77%. Young people are not just pessimistic, they are being priced out by a generation that has all the cheat codes. According to the National Association of Realtors, baby boomers are absolutely dominating the market right now. They make up 42% of all buyers and 52% of all sellers. Think about that for a second. Boomers are sitting on nearly $19 trillion in home equity. They are not moving because they have to for work. They are moving because they want to be closer to their grandkids or they want to downsize to a beach house. And because they have all that cash, they do not care about a 6% mortgage rate. In fact, almost half of them are just paying cash and skipping the bank entirely. Meanwhile, the average first-time buyer is trying to finance 91% of the purchase price. You are bringing a knife to a tank fight. Unless you have significant assets invested, you are getting hammered every day by inflation and national debt. Every time the government prints more money, it is at the expense of people who do not have disposable income to invest. I have been spending 2 hours a day researching markets like Las Vegas and Florida, and what I am seeing is a total disconnect. The market for houses under $800,000 is suffering because those buyers are sensitive to every tiny move in interest rates. But the luxury segment for homes over $5 million is on fire. Why? Because the stock market is near all-time highs. People are trimming their massive gains from artificial intelligence stocks and dumping that cash into real estate. They are taking their Nvidia and AMD profits and buying $5 million mansions in cash just to park their wealth. It is what I call a bifurcated market where the top 1% is playing a completely different game than the rest of us. The price-to-earnings ratio of the stock market is currently around 38. That is the second highest level in 150 years of data. The only time it was higher was during the dot-com peak in the year 2000. Now, some people argue that this is the new normal because of the digital economy and artificial intelligence. They say that old metrics like the Buffett indicator are broken because they do not account for the value of things like Google or Meta, and maybe they are right. But history tells us that when things get this expensive, the music eventually stops. Every unnecessary purchase is a worker you just fired from your wealth-building company. If you are buying a luxury car or a brand new wardrobe instead of building your portfolio, you are choosing to stay a servant to the system. Wealth is not about what you buy, it is about what you keep. In today's market, the average person is getting squeezed while the invested class is reaping the benefits of a high-asset environment. If you do not have a time frame longer than a goldfish, you are going to lose this game. You have to be patient, and you have to be boring. Last year, everyone was terrified of Google at $150, but the people who stayed calm are laughing now with the stock near $400. The same thing applies to the housing market. Do not FOMO into a house just because you think you are missing out. Buying a house at the top of a bubble with a 6% interest rate is a recipe for financial suicide. Wait for the fear to return because that is when the real deals are made. Right now, there is still too much greed and too much dumb money chasing all-time highs. I would rather have a 6% cash position and wait for a correction than be fully deployed into an overpriced market. If you stay patient, you will be the one with the cash when everyone else is panicking. That is the whole point of taking profit while others are celebrating. If the market goes up, you still have exposure. If it comes down, you have the liquidity to buy the world. I want you to think about your life in terms of hours, not just dollars. When you buy that $1,000 phone, you are not just spending money, you are spending 40 hours of your life if you make $25 an hour. Is that piece of glass worth a week of your freedom? When you apply that logic to a house that costs $600,000, you realize you are signing away 20 years of your labor. That is fine if the house is a home, but it is a disaster if you think it is a guaranteed investment. The smartest thing you can do right now is to stop acting like a consumer and start acting like a casino owner. A casino owner does not gamble on every single hand. A casino owner sets up a system with a mathematical edge and then waits for the players to bring them the money. Your mathematical edge is compound interest and a low-cost index fund. It is not flashy and it does not make for a good story at a cocktail party. But when you are 50 years old and your friends are still working 40 hours a week to pay a mortgage, you will be the one who owns their time. I see so many people trying to find the next 100-bagger or the next crypto moonshot. They spend thousands of hours staring at charts and reading group chats. That is not investing, that is a hobby that costs you money. The real wealth is built by people who find a good business and then leave it alone for 30 years. Charlie Munger used to say that the big money is not in the buying and the selling, but in the waiting. Most of you are terrible at waiting. You want the hit of dopamine that comes from clicking a buy button. You want to feel like you are doing something important. But in the world of money, the more you do, the less you usually have. High fees and taxes and bad timing will eat your soul if you are not careful. I want you to look at your bank account and ask yourself how many of these dollars are actually working for you. If they are just sitting there being eaten by inflation, they are lazy employees. If they are invested in overpriced real estate, they are risky employees. But if they are invested in broad market index funds with low fees, they are the best workers you will ever have. They do not take sick days, and they do not complain, and they work for you while you sleep. I know it feels like everyone else is getting rich fast, but that is just an illusion created by social media. For every person who made $1 million on a meme coin, there are 10,000 people who lost their rent money. Do not compare your inside to someone else's outside. Focus on your own math and your own psychology. If you can master your emotions, you can master the market, because the market is just a giant machine that transfers money from the impatient to the patient. Which side of that transfer do you want to be on? I am telling you right now that the next few years will be a massive test for retail investors. We have had a long run of easy money and cheap debt. Those days are over for now. The winners of the next decade will be the people who can live below their means and stay invested through the volatility. If you are worried about the housing market, then do not buy a house yet. Rent is the maximum you will pay for housing, while a mortgage is the minimum you will pay. When you rent, you do not have to worry about the roof leaking or the taxes going up or the market crashing. You have the flexibility to move to where the opportunity is. In a changing economy, flexibility is your greatest asset. Do not let society pressure you into a massive liability just because that is what your parents did. Your parents lived in a world with different math. You have to play the game that is in front of you right now in 2026. And right now the game favors the person with cash and a long-term vision. So keep your head down and keep your expenses low and keep your eyes on the prize. The prize is not a fancy house or a fast car. The prize is the ability to do whatever you want with your time. And once you have that, you have everything. Thank you very much for all the support, by the way. I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to have this community growing with me. I would appreciate it if you are new here to subscribe because it is free. Hit the thumbs up button because that is also free. Let us talk about the year-to-date performance for a second. It is true that a lot of people not exposed to memory or artificial intelligence are not having a great year. But it does not really matter what you do year-to-date. As long as your long-term performance is good, you are fine. Nobody is going to give you a score and tell you that you are a bad investor. Year-to-date performance means absolutely nothing for us non-institutional investors. Do you own great companies? Did those companies report good earnings? If growth is accelerating, then you are owning great companies at cheap prices. I know it is not the greatest feeling right now, but these stocks always come down eventually. If you are patient, these are the opportunities. Last year, you could buy Google at $150 per share for quite a while. Was Google a bad company last year? No, it was a very good company, but the narrative was not there. Those that accumulated shares are quite happy right now with the stock near $400 12 months later. Look at SoFi and Robinhood. These companies are better companies today than they were before. Yet the market does not like them right now because macro impacts certain names, they get hit. But you are not investing for tomorrow or next month. You are investing for many, many years. In today's market, I feel there are many names that are down quite a lot. You might feel bad because they are not participating in this bull market. But at one point, the music will stop. At one point, the market will start to look at other names where nothing is priced in. You want to be in a position where you built your position at a reasonable price. Then you benefit from the ride up. When we go up significantly, you are sitting in a luxurious position where you can take profits and relax. Look at Mercado Libre down 37% over the past 12 months. It is an $80 billion market cap company with incredible growth. If you study the company, the track record is very good. If you do not have a time frame of a goldfish, you see an opportunity here. I am not saying this is a 100x, but it could be a multi-bagger over the next decade. Last quarter, they had 49% year-over-year growth. That is a tremendous company with 29 consecutive quarters of growth above 30%. But it is not a memory name, so the market does not care. C Limited was up 13% today because of a good earnings report. Over the past year, it is still down 32%. It is a $58 billion company growing quite fast. We are seeing an acceleration in growth this quarter at 46%. Then there is that other company we have been following that gets no love. It is a broken stock right now, but definitely not a bad company. Bad companies do not see accelerated growth like this. It is trading at a forward price to earnings ratio of around 27 times. For a name growing this fast, that makes no sense. Disregard the fact that this is a fintech name with a bank. Banks do not usually grow revenue at 41% year over year. The guidance they gave for this year does not even include any rate cuts. I view this as a positive thing. I think the worst-case scenario is already baked in for SoFi. Another name that gets zero love is Meta. Meta is still down 7% year-to-date. It is a company worth $1.5 trillion growing revenue at 33% last quarter. The market is trying to tell you that this is a bad company that spends too much money, but there is already a very good return on investment in the quarterly figures. Meta is expected to grow above 20% over the next 12 months. If the market is not comfortable with Meta, I will gladly take more shares. Even Nvidia stayed at $170 for 7 months before moving. Investors who study the business have a big advantage because they know there is a disconnect. Look at the past month of performance. You cannot tell me that we are in a buy-the-dip environment yet. Names have almost doubled over the past 30 days. That is not normal. Buy the dip when people are really fearful. That happened in March when everybody was laughing at our portfolios. That is when we were buying because we knew the prices were great. Right now, I still think a lot of people are quite greedy. The music can go on, but at one point it will stop. It will be quite violent for the people who missed the rally and FOMO'd in at the top. They will become Gucci bag holders. I see people taking out second mortgages to buy tech stocks. I see people selling their cars to buy options. That is not investing, that is a cry for help. If you need to make 100% in a month to feel okay, your system is broken. Wealth is a slow-cooked meal, not a microwave burrito. If you can learn to love the process of accumulation, you will never be poor. Even if you only make $60,000 a year, you can retire a millionaire. The math is simple, but the discipline is rare. $1,000 a month at an 8% return becomes over $1.5 million in 30 years. That is not magic, it is just basic arithmetic. But most people cannot wait 30 days, let alone 30 years. They would rather have the $10,000 watch today and work until they die. Do not be that person. Be the person who understands the value of time. Time is the only thing you cannot buy more of once it is gone. So stop wasting your hours on liabilities and start spending them on assets. That is the only secret I have for you. It is not complicated, but it is incredibly difficult to do in a world that wants you to spend. But I believe in you because you are here and you are listening. You are already ahead of 99% of the world. Now you just have to do the work and wait for the miracle of compound interest to take over. Wait for the market to realize the value of the companies you own, and wait for the housing market to come back to reality. When it does, you will be ready with your cash and your clarity. And that is when you will truly win the game. I will see you in the next video with more math and more truth. Keep stacking your chips and keep your heart cold when the market gets hot. The best is yet to come for those who can endure the boring parts. So keep going and do not look back at the noise. The signal is clear if you are paying attention. Everything else is just a distraction meant to separate you from your money. Hold on to your shares and hold on to your dignity, and most importantly, hold on to your time, because that is what wealth actually looks like. Stay boring, stay patient, peace.